If nobody turned that one steer the 4 times you ran him that night, you didn't get a turn in.
You just didn't get to row.
Who in the heck loans you $30,000 to go rodeo? What are you talking
We get done, we're like, this sucks. We're still going to do it.
I can't stand it, so I just go up to him and I am like, is there something wrong with your brain?
So we're officially
That's
going.
undefendable.
Undefendable.
Yeah, that really is our man.
The name of the podcast is the Flatbed Podcast, and the reason for that is the flatbed is like my habit. Perfect.
Right here.
Wesley Thorp. Headed to your, how many?
This will be the 7th NFR.
Does it feel like that it's different this year? Is it starting to settle into almost like a routine, or do you still get that like tingly?
Yeah, I would say in a good way, it's starting to feel more like a routine. I think I'm finally able to focus, like kind of understand what to expect, which is a good thing. You know, first few years I was so excited that it's kind of hard to focus, really, especially round 1, and that was so. Yeah, it's a little bit of a routine, but kind of in a good way, I think.
So I know you're going to say no to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Growing up as a kid, I think everybody goes through this, like, will I have what it takes? Am I going to be that good, or am I just going to be a good jackpot run, or whatever the case? Are you to a place where you finally just settled into, like, no, okay, if I do my job, that should be the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, because I know exactly what you mean. I mean, growing up, like, this is what you want so bad that that's the lifestyle you want to live, and the people you look up to and watch the NFR, you want to make it and all that. And it's I mean, you get a sense of anxiety of like, am I going to be good enough or have what it takes? So
how many years after you started rodeoing did it take for you to get in?
It was first year, the rodeo from start to finish. I made
That's
it.
got to feel good a little bit.
You've
Never not made it.
Never not made it since I started. And I will say I bought my card one year, and I actually didn't have I talked at the rookie deal last year, and I was like, congratulating them on winning the rookie. And I said, my rookie year, I obviously knew, not that I had no intention of making the NFR, really. I mean, I wanted to go to a few winter rodeos, just make sure I got in everywhere. But I didn't have a horse, didn't have a partner by the spring. I mean, I went to a few, they ended up getting a part of that summer and going to the summer rodeo, a few summer rodeos. We went for a week stretch and had some luck, ended up making our circuit finals, stuff like that. But it's, I don't know, the rookie day, I was not prepared at all to be able to rodeo full time.
Who's in your corner like that year when you're like, I'll try it, I don't know, we'll see. Who's in your corner that looking back on it was trying to give you hints of like, hey, maybe was there, and looking back, was there anybody that was trying to help? I always underestimated myself in a way of like, I never thought I was ready. Like even the next year, like when I finally did say, hey, I'm going to go, in that fall, I made the decision, Zach asked me to rope. I was like, I'm going to go all in. I went to the U.S. finals, had a good U.S. finals. Zach asked me to rope. I had one horse that I had confidence in. He had an awesome horse. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a fair shot. But even then, like, we were having some luck at the open ropens, but I never thought I was, I still have a shortage of confidence a lot of times, just because, like, I don't ever feel like I'm prepared enough. And it's not a good feeling to have. Sometimes you want to do whatever you can to be prepared, but I never went into it overconfident. Even the year I made it, I never felt like I was good enough to make it until I made it. And then I kind of looked at it like, well, what if I got lucky? Right. And then I looked at it like, what if lightning struck once and it was an accident?
Anything can, so I always tried to look at it that way of, man, I've got to get better. These guys that was the RA year. So I had to kind of face that. I mean, I got that in Vegas, like, man, how does it feel to make the finals? Like, that's really fortunate for those guys to not be there. And
right. What did you go in that year? What place?
Last. I barely made it.
So reasonably, those guys, you can argue.
I mean, there's several of the top teams not rodeoing that year, which in our defense, we were top 3 all year until Cheyenne, and we were 3rd in the world at Cheyenne, and he started vet school. So we were counting little bitty rodeos and stuff. I mean, our rodeo count was high, but we were 3rd in the world, and he had to start vet school early.
No kidding.
And when he left, I mean, he was flying into the Northwest. Didn't run a practice steer. He was flying in. It was super hard on him. He was having to get on 2 or 3 planes to get there.
Goodness.
Barely get there in time to rope. And we'd only pick out 1 or 2 rodeos of the week to get to rope at, and then he was back. And so, I mean,
I mean, we were in a great spot, roping good all year, doing good at the jackpots until that last month right there. It was hard, which he said from the start. He said, "Hey, when it starts, I'm gone." Like,
is he a vet now, full on?
He is. Yeah, he's a vet full on now.
If you look, and I don't know Zach at all. I've seen him, like, that was kind of during my calf roping years. But if you were to look through the entire crowd and you go, which one of these guys is getting on a plane, going to vet school? You'd be like, that guy right there. He looks just like somebody that would be smart.
Yeah.
He fits the profile.
Oh yeah, he's the profile for sure.
It's called the imposter syndrome, and the imposter syndrome says that the most qualified person for the job will also feel like the least qualified person because he understands how difficult the job is. And sometimes confidence follows people only because they don't know any better. Like, they don't have any clue what it takes to do the job. So they're the ones that are like promoting themselves. Like, of course I could do this. It's not that hard. And I think to your credit, when you say maybe you don't give yourself enough credit, I think that comes with being hyper talented, because you see somebody do something, then you recognize the difficulty of it. There's an appreciation for it. By the same token, you can appreciate a run for what it is in ways that, like, maybe an average team roping observer wouldn't.
Right.
But it leaves you feeling like, man, I don't know. It's so hard to do what I do. And you almost never see yourself.
Sure.
Right? You go to a rope and you can see everybody else. You can't see yourself.
Sure.
And so you're always having to guess. And so I wonder how common that is for people.
Like, if I compare, I mean, the way I look at team roping or open rope is, like, if I sit and watch an open roping like we were just at, if I watch the roping, like, from a fan perspective, like, I'll almost get intimidated. Like, I'm so impressed with the roping and how good the guys are, but I literally have to reel it back into myself and, like, disconnect myself from the roping to where I can go right around and focus on the steps I do to be who I am. Because if I try to be somebody else and don't go through my steps, then I dang sure can't beat them, because I can't be them better than they are. So,
well, how many people come to mind right now, like, without naming names, you think of people that you watch them change their style based on kind of maybe who they're around, and it's like, man, that's an uphill battle. When you start changing things to fit, like you said, you can't be somebody as well as they are.
Yeah, it's just not going to work.
And I think it's common. I don't know how somebody wouldn't, especially if somebody's listening to this that's just coming up. You're kind of basing your style, on, you're still kind of learning your identity a little bit. And so,
and that's what, I pick styles and choose styles and focus on one thing this guy did that I thought that could do. But, you just have to figure out what works for you and learn from that. But like you said, if you're trying to follow one thing, I mean, you can't do what they do better than them.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
and they've been doing it their whole lives being that. What, growing up family wise, I mean, was it a whole family thing that you guys did growing up? Because you were good early.
So growing up, like, my granddad raised horses. He always had a lot of young horses around. My dad roped. And
what's your dad's name?
Jehu. So he roped, and he ran cattle. So I was always around that, horses growing up. My dad got back into team rope. He took a few years off. He got back into team roping when I got a little bit older. But when I really started riding, I spent a lot of time with my granddad, and he was a really good horseman. He's a really good horseman, new horses. I mean, he bred good horses, stuff like that. And I got a good feel for a horse, my left hand and things like that have stuck with me, to this day. And when I got into, jackpot, my dad really got back into it, and he healed good, and he had a good style, and he was real competitive and didn't care as much about the horsemanship. So I had a pretty good balance. Like, my granddad was way more interested in training and didn't care about competing. My dad only cared about competing, could care less about the training. So I had a pretty good balance.
That's a pretty fatal combo. And to get the horsemanship first, what an advantage.
Yeah, I had a huge advantage. I mean, my granddad is a very, very common sense, good horseman. I mean, he really knew how to use a left hand. He never, he just didn't pick on a horse. He knew how to let him be a horse, and he could get a lot out of him that way. But he wasn't ever big into he didn't rodeo much. He didn't go show or anything like that, but it was, looking back, very grateful to have the experience I had from him, because it is amazing how good he was with his left hand.
Yeah. So, do you have siblings?
I have a younger brother.
What's his name?
Wyatt. He's
Thorp.
6 years younger than me, but.
Is he in the roping deal?
So he roped a little bit. He was quite a bit younger than me, so he was always getting drugged around to junior rodeos and stuff, so he really kind of resented it at a young age. But then as he got older, my dad kind of made him head for him a little bit. I wouldn't say he hates it now. He moved to Stephenville. He actually lives close to us now, but he's super handy at everything he does, builds houses, stuff like that. But
now that he's about to be 21 next year, so like he knows there's a little bit of money in it now. At the World Series stuff, he's got a low number, so I think I think he'll probably crack out.
There's probably not going to be a line of girls in Stephenville clapping for the guy that built the nicest house either. Like a guy that's 20 years old, that kind of stuff starts to register of like, wait a minute, social reward. I need to be competitive at something.
Yeah.
I've got my little boy. He just couldn't care less about it. And I've tried. Like I've got horses for him to ride, and we've always got slow steers and stuff. And I just have accepted. Like when his friends come over and they want to rope, then he wants to rope. But he's just not into it. And so I'm hoping maybe someday some little girl's going to come by and be like, oh my gosh, you're a cowboy, and kind of haze for me, but no luck so far. So are they, like, when you start roping, at what point did they see that you were going to have success before you did, or did you in your mind feel like, hey, I think this is going to work?
I had fun. I mean, it started out, it was fun for me. The junior rodeos, when I started roping calves, like enter several events, I remember like it registered for me that like how I could prepare and go compete, and I loved that side of it, like getting ready for it, and kind of get to win my own money and stuff like that was fun. And then team roping, like when I started team roping, I was hooked. Like I roped calves first, really, and then when I started junior rodeo, I would team rope some, and then I started going to the jackpots when I was 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And like I would bug those old guys to rope. I mean, months in advance. I mean,
did you head in the beginning?
I did. I started out heading, but I guess to answer your question, I never looked at. I mean, I watched NFR. I really looked up to all those guys, but my parents, I don't think they ever like overlooked at it. Like how far I could go or whatever. They knew I had some talent, and they really wanted to help me any way they could. Like my dad, even he would get me to Tyler Magnus sometimes and stuff like that at a young age. And I went to speed when I was a little bit older, so I'd kind of go between both of those guys a little bit.
What's that like, roping speed? I think you can be. I feel like you can be honest. Here's why I ask. Because I hear people that are like, they go and they're like, oh my gosh, I loved it, I got it. What he does really worked for me.
Yeah.
And then I've heard from people that come back and they're like, he is so mean. Like it just seems like there's some variation.
I appreciate how he is so much. Now, the first time I went to speed, like it kicked me in the nuts. I mean, it did. It took the air out of me.
Speed told me I should quit.
I was. Let me think. I was 13 the first time I went, and I was.
So not at the peak of your confidence as a person anyway. 13, you're kind of like peppered face
I was
phase
young,
of life.
and like all I knew, I go to the Junior World every year, and that's a pretty good place to like evaluate where you're at. I mean, you're roping the 14. I mean, most of the best kids, they don't have it anymore. I think they need. I mean, that was such an awesome. I remember
it was like the thing.
They don't have it anymore, and it's sad because I think.
Shout out any team roping producer might be listening, because people still talk about that, right?
It's so cool.
It produced a lot of team roping careers.
So cool. I mean, you could see. All the good kids scattered out all over, came to one place, and you could know where it kind of measure, where you're at. And
it was like the highlight when I was living with Jake and Jim. That was like the highlight of their year. They roped all the time, but that was like the thing they prepared for.
Yeah, you pile of steers, in 2 days. It was such a cool experience for me growing up to go there. But that was kind of your measuring stick, at least to know sort of where you're at for your age. And but I was on, I'm 13. The time I went to speed is before that year of the Junior World. So I mean, I had been at maybe the bottom of the, I might not even been to the Junior World yet. That might have been my first year coming up. So for whatever reason, it was in that time frame. I knew I was at a pretty high level for where I was, but I didn't, like I said, I never was the person that thought, oh, I'm way ahead. Or I felt good about where I was, but I didn't necessarily know how much better I needed to get. And
and you're wanting somebody that you trust to evaluate. You go, am I seeing this right? Like, is what I'm seeing exactly accurate, or am I kidding myself? Or
so speed. The way I got him was Speed's brother-in-law and I roped together in the 12s. And I was a 6+, he's a 6. It was a great sit. We roped together, won a lot in the 12s, and I met Speed's wife one time, and got to talking to her, and she made the comment. So I was a really respectful young kid, and she wanted to invite me to the house. So she told Speed, and anyway,
I hope all the young people listening just caught that. The yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. It'll take you places.
So I did. I talked to him, and it did. That's what got my foot in the door. I mean, she said, she's like, thanks for being that way or whatever, but I wouldn't invite you to the house. And so she told Speed, that's how I got my foot in the door. Well, I got there.
Your first lesson was a honeydew that got given to him by.
Yeah. So, Speed's, he's over there for whatever it's worth. I'm here. But he was so great. I mean, he came out and talked when we first pulled in. It wasn't like, I didn't feel in the way. And then he got me in there, and like, he put me through the ringer like it was a real lesson. I mean, I went and roped. And of course, I'm green. Like, I hadn't really been to schools. Tyler had helped me a little bit and stuff. So like, I was,
I would rope and then be like, hey, what do you think, or what do I need to do? Speed. He doesn't talk. Like you don't do it. You video it.
Okay.
So we go through the deal, and I'm just wondering. I'm like, I don't know what to think. So
you're kind of hoping you're going to get in. He's like, all right, I got to tell you, you're
Yeah.
the best healer I've ever seen in my entire life.
So fun. This is fun. And I really don't have told this to anybody, but we were supposed to rope in the 15. It had been lined. I was roped the 15 at Stephenville. Was the U.S. roping the next day. And so I had him in the 15. Well, Speed made a comment riding around. He's like, he only had one run in the open. And I'm 13. I'm like, oh man, how am I going to get the balls to ask this question? So long story short, we go on for video session. At the end of the video session, I did not have the nuts to ask Speed to rope in the open. I'll put it.
I'm catching all the social cues. That's not where this is going.
So we're not going to cross that bridge. So it was a eye opener for me. I mean, it was your
when he's honest, did you feel like he was saying maybe it's not good, but it will be, or did you feel like that? And I've never been. Listen, I'm asking genuinely because I have never experienced any of that with him at all.
Right.
Did you feel like that you were like embarrassed by it, or did you feel like he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not very good," but
I wasn't embarrassed. I just took it as like I tried to take it for what I thought it was, and it knocked the air out of me. Like I had low and stuff. I was like, we know my horses aren't good now. I mean, we know that, which I knew that, but we really know now my horses aren't good.
You confirmed what I suspected.
How am I gonna get better? So I got to get better horses. I got to ride better, and my horses were slow-footed, and they kind of got flat through the turn, and then that made me lean more and not ride very good. So I would rope around that, set myself up for one throw because that's what I thought I could do to get by.
Right.
Well, ever since then, it's always been this way. But when he points something out, like truth hits you in the face, like you get an example right after. So the next day I'm high call on the 13 and I have like all day to win the roping. And this is exactly the hole that we've talked about. And Speed's brother-in-law turns us here to be like 6. And my horse, like I could feel my horse underneath. And I missed for Speed. I was 12 on 2 in the 15, missed for Speed in the 3rd round. But I had like no more throw. Like I couldn't go one
it was
more
this
swing.
Or nothing.
Like,
yeah.
And not that my horse stopped. Like he literally like would peter out. Like we had no more.
It was going to go from here to like sidearm, just Brandon shot.
So then I'm high call, got all day to win the rope, and he turns him fast. I get around there and done. Like I try to take throw miss, and so I'm like devastated. I mean, it tore me up anyway. But it was insurance that like that's what I need to do. I got to get better horses. I got to ride better. So
they say that people who are writers, they're writing books and they've learned something and they're trying to write this book, and it doesn't start with the conclusion, it starts with the problem, right?
Yeah.
So as you're trying to write this problem in a way that people can understand, there's what's called the curse of knowledge, which means once you know something, it's really hard to remember what it was like before you knew it.
Yeah.
And like listening to what you're saying, it's crazy when somebody points something like that out. Once you see it, then you feel it, and you're like, man, you can't ever unknow that.
Yeah.
But the next time you go look at a horse, next time you're riding, next time you're practicing, that will never ever again go unnoticed.
Yeah.
It sucks.
So it was a big eye opener. Like I went and like I couldn't afford to go buy whatever whatever horse I wanted. So I had to win. Like, and then when I won, I had to go buy my horse, buy the horse with that. So I had to use what I had. And like I didn't sell horses like growing up. I mean, it's not something I did. But so I had to get by on what I had for a little bit longer, but it did help me at least give me something to work on, give me something to think about. And then my goal was I'm going to be ready next time I go back. And like, I mean, the way I was looking back, I was kind of proud of myself that I took it like that, because I could have seen myself be defeated very easily and be like, man, I'm not going to be good enough, and just walk away. Because I mean, he never gave me the reassurance of like, hey, like I think you have what it takes.
He
can do it.
There was
like,
never, but it's going to be
like,
okay.
Man, your horses aren't good enough. You're pulling these shots off. You got to ride better. And
can you imagine the nerve of telling a 12-year-old kid like, hey,
it's so impressive to me. It's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. I wish I could do it. I wish I could do it like he does it, because at the end of the day, I wish I could be that. I wish I could. And I try to make myself sometimes, and I'll get in the middle of it. I'm like, man, this isn't going to work. And that's not going to work. Gosh, you're trying hard, but
buddy, man, you're really
hard.
I'm a middle child, and I think part of what comes with middle child is I always feel like if I'm ever just dead level honest, people will turn around, walk away, and I'll never see them again.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, screw you. And then I see people like Clay trying, and I'm like,
Yeah.
How is there people in the world that can just be that level honest and then not even worry? Like, I don't like that I'm that way. I'm not that way because I want to be, but man, like when Speed tells a 12-year-old, like, your horse sucks. And everybody's like, okay, I'll see you again next year. I'm like, what? How?
Hey, I've showed up over there. Like I've bought an expensive one before and show up over there and like, man, how's this going to work? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know. No. So
Can you go with me next time?
Yeah. Like, I'll send you the videos next time. Let's just spare that.
Well, what's frustrating about that guy too is he's been there, he healed there, made the healing, and then did what he did heading. It's not like he can go, you don't know.
Yeah.
Like he obviously does. He obviously, if he says it, it's probably right.
Well, the most valuable thing, and that's the most valuable thing about him, I've not ever been able to get that kind of advice from anybody. I mean, there's guys I've looked up to, I've tried to be very picky, and that's kind of how I grew up. Like, I love taking advice, but I was picky about who I got it from and what I used. And my dad was good about kind of telling me that. He's like, you're going to get a lot of advice. Like, you got to be careful about what you take. And that's the best thing I could say is he would tell me like it is. Like to this day, I could go ask him a question, and I don't want the answer. I mean, I don't want to hear it. Like,
what is true though?
Yeah, I want to know what's true. Like so that's valuable because it's hard. It's hard to give it to somebody like it is, but sometimes that's the best way to do it, and
I mean,
it's hard to do.
I admire it. I would love to have that. I just don't. I just don't. But when somebody gives it to you, you're like, man, it's a gift.
I appreciate it.
Really is. Yeah.
Really learned to appreciate it.
I feel like that people who run high in truth run high in justice. Like when something is true and they love it, that same person is probably going to run high in justice also. And that same personality, the two just seem to run together. And like my little boy, he's 14 and he's pretty quiet, pretty easygoing. Nothing really bothers him until something's like wrong. There's an injustice, and that's where you're going to get him. He's like, hey, hold on a minute. Like if he like feels like he's been misunderstood or misrepresented, it's just big to him. I feel like I see that in you a little bit from the outside looking in. And I do not want this to be the topic of the podcast at all. I want to get to all the other stuff you got going on. But 2 times in the last 2 years, you've been willing to stand up and go, stop, this is not right. And not only stood up, said, no, this is not right, but then also suffer the consequences on the back end of it. Are you allowed to talk about Colorado Springs?
Yeah, we could talk about it.
You want to walk me through how that came about?
Yeah, so at Colorado Springs, they take 8 teams in the perf, is the way it works, and it's a tournament style, so 2 advance.
And it starts over each perf. Like, it doesn't matter what your time was, just the top 2 in that perf.
That's right. Every time it starts over. So we were in say the second bracket. We were actually in the last bracket because the next day was the finals. So we're last team out. They're running the perf. And about Clay Smith's 3rd team out, and to me it looks like he really missed the barrier. I mean, very obvious he missed the barrier. But the pin falls, and they go make a 6-second run. They say breaks the barrier. So Clay's kind of riding back on the side, going to talk to him about it. Cody's over there. He's talking to him about it. I'm just observing from the heel side, thinking, he missed the barrier. I don't know. That didn't work.
Right.
Then another team or 2 goes. One team might have missed it a long ways, didn't pull, but then the minors, the barrier fell for them. It didn't look like he broke it. Then there was a couple runs that were 5-second, 6-second runs, and questionable on who did or didn't break the barrier really. Long story short, it was a very easy round. I mean, there was legs, penalties that there was only 2 fast times broke the barrier.
Right.
So we're last out, and I mean we've got like 10 seconds to win the round. And we go 7. We had medium steer. Cody just let it drop and go turn him. We're 7. We do the little interview, go over there, and we're just kind of seeing how it falls for the next day, and seeing who else made it back. Well, Cody had caught wind that they took the barriers off of everybody in the perf. That they took everybody's barrier off.
Well, okay, so somebody that may not already be ahead of you right here might be listening. That means the plan that you guys made to go just let the barrier drop and go catch one now is irrelevant because everybody that's broken a barrier, whether it was working or whether it wasn't, doesn't matter because you guys built a plan around going and making a clean run based on the fact that there had been +10s on the board at the time when you nodded.
Yes. I mean, we were last out and had to be 10 seconds to win the night. I mean, it was day by day. So, I mean, when we go under 10, we win the round.
You're still in it.
We win 3,000 or 4,000 guaranteed, and we're into the finals. And that's clean slate again. So it doesn't really matter how fast we go or not.
Right.
So, I mean, we go 7. And they did an interview, Cowboy Channel, whatever. So we go over there, and we're sitting there and got wind that they were going to take everybody's barrier off. I didn't really know what to think about it. I'm like, I assume no. I mean, I just maybe bad information, whatever. So we go to the office and they said that the judges that came in and said they're doing that. So us team ropers were all confused, even the ones that did good, or even the ones that were fast and got the barriers taken. Well, everybody was confused.
Well, okay. So if you're driving on the road, I'm only using this as an example, and for me, this is what helps me make sense of it. The Arc de Triomphe in downtown France has no lanes, but my buddy, he was over there at the Wild West show. I know this doesn't seem relevant. Stick with me. And where there's no lanes, people are just crashing into each other. It's just chaos, right? And him and his buddy would go sit up there and drink beer and watch cars run into each other. And like, if you get to the inside, you can't get out. The lanes on the road allow freedom. It's like rails for a train. If you have a set of rules, whether you agree with the rules or not, who cares? But if there are rules, stick to them so that everybody understands the game. Because without rules, or without sticking to the rules that are in place, stuff just like the chaos that ensues. So when you talk about like, well, we're just going to do this, in my mind, you've got to have a basis in the rule book that says this is why we're doing it that way. And there's not one that says we're just going to decide to take all the barriers off. So the judges are now literally just erasing the lanes off the road and expecting everybody to know where to go.
So the first thing in my mind was like, okay, this can't be happening, but it was. And the secretary was like, we don't know what to do, but that's what happened. That's what the judge did. So, okay. So team ropers all sitting around. In my mind, I'm just like, hey guys, I think we should make this right. Like, let's just stick around and try to just visit with the judge when it's over. If you guys don't mind sticking around, they're all like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Let's just, everybody agreed that like, we need to just figure this out. We'll re-rope it, whatever we need to do.
Right. Which is actually probably what should have happened is everybody just ran them. If you're not sure it worked, go run them again.
So we stuck around for a while, and I tried to talk to Cliff for a minute, and he was going back, one of the judges, and he did not want to talk about it. But he did agree finally that they would talk after the rodeo's over. So we all stuck around for another hour, and as we were trying to get a hold of event reps and higher ups to be able to kind of, hey, what's right and wrong here? So our event director was like, man, that's not possible. That they can't do that. There was an event going on in Colorado Springs that the other guys were at it was causing a ruckus for them, so they're trying to get out of the meeting and figure out a way to stop this. And so we met with the judges after it was over. They were very adamant about no changes, and they were going to leave. And at the end of the day,
were they? I don't know if that matters actually. Never mind.
They weren't very communicative about it. I mean, it was.
They're not even
rude.
telling you why they're doing it. They're just saying too bad.
Yeah. So I mean, they basically, we're going home. That's it. And I might have took it a little too personal, because in my mind, I'm thinking like, dude, we're dragging our families all over this summer. Right. We're going everywhere. We're going to these rodeos, and that's what we do for a living.
We were literally playing by y'all's rules.
Yeah, we're playing by the rules.
change the rules.
And so it's like, it didn't set well with me. So like, I basically, it's what happened, and I got in trouble for it. But at the end of the day, I was like, hey, we're not leaving until we fix it. And I stood my ground, and that's what happened. But it just.
And they decided that sounded threatening.
Yeah, it was a little threatening, I think, at the time for what they wanted to hear.
There's a video bouncing around a few years ago that I don't know if I ought to say this or not because I know the guy. Judges and fighting, sometimes those don't mix very good.
Yeah.
Saying that?
Yeah.
I can understand them not wanting to turn it into a conflict, but to their point, you've got to have something to stand on. You have to have some point to
I really felt like at that time, I did feel like we were getting taken advantage of pretty bad, like in a way that there was no fix. I mean, there was nothing we could have done to prevent the whole situation. Like as far as they were notified during the perf about the barrier malfunctioning. They wanted to ignore that. They did ignore that. And then at the end of the day, we tried to make it right to re-rope.
And their paycheck is guaranteed. Yeah. They're not going to lose their income, but you're going to lose yours.
And anyway, at the end of the day, I just felt like it was a terrible situation, and like I just didn't feel like I was in the. And I don't know. I'm one of those, like, I'm pretty quiet. I'm pretty sure I'm definitely not confrontational at all. But I just felt like we were really taken advantage of. We were as a bad position, and it was just like right's right, wrong's wrong, and like I wasn't going down.
That's I think the advantage of being a good guy day in, day out, though, is like I think everybody that knows you, what I know of you, It's always been yes sir, no sir, really respectful. Like the only time I see you mad is if it's not going, like if you don't win something. You know,
Yeah.
I have seen you throw a rope across the arena at Cottonwood, but it's not like you're looking to fight. It's not that at all. And so you've got a whole life invested into that point that goes, hey, like I'm drawing a line right here. And it feels like to me, and the PRCA is going to probably hate that I'm saying this because that's probably exactly the opposite of what they were trying to do, that because you're the guy that stood up, it feels like the momentum around your reputation shifts to like, hey, this guy is actually smart. He knows what he's doing. He knows right from wrong. And it feels like it actually put you maybe in like a leadership position that I don't know that you were in before that. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, because I definitely, I'd had another incident happen, you know, the other NFR. Anyway, the way things were handled, I just didn't feel like we're professional. And in my opinion,
Can you talk about the other incident?
You know,
You're smiling.
it came down. It was a barrier at the NFR, and they didn't record it on another team, and it cost us a spot in the average. And like when they were kind of notified about it, just the way it was handled. I mean, it was like a. You know,
Well, nobody wants to be the guy that tattles either.
So,
it's like,
yeah.
please do your job. Don't make me the guy.
Yeah, it was our buddy. It was our buddy team. It was
Yeah.
our friends, and it's not
Yeah.
like. And I didn't. I mean, I didn't tattle on them, but it was the fact that
This
it
is
didn't
their
get
job.
recorded, and
This
then
is
they
their whole job.
Like the way it was, you know, handled. I was just like, man. I mean, it's just getting, you know, things. Everybody wants to sweep things under the rug in the rodeo world, and they want to do, you know.
Stuff that's
Dance
fixable.
around
Stuff that's
things, and
fixable.
it's
It's
like-
one thing. It's one thing if you can't do anything about it. If it's too big to fix, that's one thing. But a lot of these things aren't. A lot of these things could be addressed.
Yeah, and I just think that the opportunities rodeo has. I mean, right now, in the world we live in. I mean, and like it is necessary to take advantage of those, or where we could be if we don't take advantage of those. So. I don't know. I'm a little bit passionate in that way of.
I don't want to minimize what you're saying, but what I hear is I see how it is, and I see how it could be, and that is what you want in a leader. You want somebody that goes, no, I get it. I get it like it is. I got it. But if we did this, it could be like this, which is better. And the rodeo world desperately needs people that have that ability to see around the corner and go, this could improve. This could be better.
Yeah.
One more incident, and I'm just curious because I wasn't there, and I'm living in the Northwest the last 10 years. Of course, my phone was blowing up when it happened, and then we'll switch gears. Ellensburg this year, the crossfire rule, and I do not want to take up all the time in crossfire because honestly, it's a question with no answers right now. Shout out to some of the people who I know are working behind the scenes on that right now. Ellensburg, obviously not a crossfire. Here again, it happens to the guy that now has the and I can know without even asking you. You don't want to be the guy that just goes around looking for a fight. It's not like you're just got a chip on your shoulder.
Right.
Terrible call. The team ropers are the ones that are like, no, absolutely not. What happened? Like,
yeah,
ready, set,
we're
go.
at the beginning of the slack. The steer rolls left, a couple steps left. Cody heads him, and at this point, we had a slow steer, and he ended up going left. So like it was kind of past the point of like placing in the round. I mean, but still, he gets it on him in a good spot.
Catch him, stay on it.
I'm around. I'm not thinking like, hey, if I heel this steer fast, we'll win something in the round. I'm like, make a sharp run. So I rode all the way around the end of the steer, heeled him, at least first legal. Like it was kind of in between first, second. And I go to ride up, and Cody's like, hey, they flagged us out. And I'm like, no way.
Shut up.
I look up, and I mean, before I could I'm just walking up the arena. Before, there's several guys rushed out there to figure out what's going on. I mean, because it's the beginning of the slack, for one. Steers check off in the Northwest. They roll. I mean, it's that time of year. They've been roped several times.
Well, and they were calf roped the year before.
People want to know, what's the rule?
Yeah.
So, like, what, and...
seriously, though, if the fact that they got roped as calves, breakaway or calf rope, that makes that call harder the following year because those steers are checking down and stepping left more so than a steer that's like a fresher steer.
Yeah.
It is a harder call, and that steer is behaving like he knows what's coming, and so... Not a good call, but the judge is watching it. I guarantee he's waiting for the next something more visible.
Yeah.
And doesn't get the look he thought he was going to get, and so instantly it's no time.
Yeah, the flag horse was throwing his head up and running sideways and giving him all kinds of trouble. So I don't think he was getting. Like, it honestly probably felt like crap from his position. So I'm not. In my mind, I want to think that he's probably fighting this horse and looks up and just sees that steer hit, down the arena a little bit or something, and it maybe threw a red flag. So like, at the end of the day, he didn't want to stick with, like you could tell, like he's like, oh, I made a mistake, But it one judge
at Pendleton one year, there's a judge up there named Bobby. He's a super, super nice guy. He called a team out and for the crossfire. And that night they're like in the grass where everybody parks and stuff. We were sitting there talking to him. And he's like, I screwed that one up and I was wrong. And I don't know what to do about it. Dude, I can live with that.
Yeah.
If a judge is like, oh, shoot, I missed it. Whatever. Like, I get it. They're in a tough spot. I get that it's a difficult, kind of a challenging call to make right now. It's hard that there's not the ability for a judge to go, shoot, I missed that. You're right. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Once they've called it, what do they do?
Yeah, that's a tough.
Can he at that point, if he said, no, I made a mistake, could he have taken it off? Or is it already too late?
I mean, the judge can. I mean, it's a judgment.
So he's
decision.
thinking I made a mistake. I shouldn't have called it, but now he's just standing his ground on principle.
Yeah, there was another judge there that was pretty adamant about it. He was sticking to his call, which, in their defense,
Slippery slope when you start.
There was a lot of
reversing the
people
calls.
coming
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
talking to him and questioning him. I mean, you can't just have that. I mean, people can't come out there and stop the slack and then
Right.
just overturn calls to overturn the calls. So I mean,
Right.
not really picking on them for that because
Yeah,
they
you
have
don't want to
be
empower
able
the mob.
Yeah,
right?
they
I
have
get
to
it.
be. I mean, they have to stick to their guns, stick to their call, and like we have to be able to live with it at the end of the day. But I do want to think now, just from a few events that have happened, I think that we've all kind of got some common ground, and like they actually had a team rope seminar at the house recently, and like I kind of feel like the team ropers and we're all on the same page a little bit, not so much like, I don't feel like, I feel like we both have a pretty mutual respect for each other now, and like I kind of think it's good, but
Well, what I see happening, like I said, from way over on the sidelines, is it's nice to see figures in the rodeo world start to kind of raising up as leaders, because when something comes up now, they're going to be like, we got to talk to Wesley. He's somebody that at least makes an effort to try to get it right. And so even though there's some, I would say, consequences that go along with that, it also establishes you in a way that's really meaningful to help move the sport along later. You're going to be the guy that they go through at some point, maybe not the guy, but you're going to be one of the guys that gets into the conversation.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's a membership-driven organization. Like, we have it's our fault. I mean, everything that's been done, in my opinion, has been totally our fault.
Right.
I mean, why do we let the things go on this?
Right.
We turned it over to somebody else to control our destiny a long time ago, and then here we are. We have a lot of downtime. I mean, we could easily, if more of us got involved, and we could easily make some very positive changes, and it will happen, but slowly. But in my opinion, it could be done pretty fast.
I don't want to, I'm not a super political person, but I see it happen a lot in politics, where the person who wants the position of power is probably the last person that you want in that position of power. For whatever reason, the mechanism that drives people like, no, I'll be in charge. Here, give me all the control. And it's a weird thing when the masses hand off a lot of the power and leadership to a few people. It's a slippery thing that should not be taken lightly, because like you said, now it's a membership driven organization. And how long has it been since the PRCA Cowboys felt like they really had an investment into and how do you get it back?
Yeah.
Once you give your power up, what are you just going to go ask for it back? And they're going to be like, you know what? I'm making a lot of money and I get to be in control, but here, you take it from me.
In my opinion, I thought Fallon Taylor hit the nail on the head one time on our podcast. I heard her talking about, and she's like, rodeo people, the rodeo individual, like a lot of them think somebody's going to come in and save them. Nobody's going to save you.
There's no one coming.
There's nobody coming. Like, it's us.
Yeah.
And like I had a meeting one day invited a few people. And when I was like, hey, I mean, I haven't been around a long time. I mean, that's 7 years full time. But at first I'm like, man, you're watching, you're trying to observe, trying to learn how things work. But at the end of the day, like, there's nobody out there coming to just save you. I mean, it's you gotta.
Well, and if people got that, how would they behave differently? And I mean it like this. I think they would be more prone to having that conversation after the slack, sitting around at a trailer. I think they would be more prone to putting things together. And I'm afraid that with the development of the ERA and seeing how that went, and I know it's got, like Bobby's doing his deal
They're
now.
gun shy as all get out.
But now everybody's like, that one guy, he stood up for himself and like they strung him up. I'm not doing it.
That was a terrible deal.
That was a giant step backwards.
That set a lot of people back, because I mean, I love the fact they tried to do that, but I mean the way it went about, and I mean it was a bad deal. I mean,
yeah, I tell you what broke my heart is, like, I grew up, rodeo people were my heroes. I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy so bad when I was a little kid. And when I watched the biggest and the best, brightest names in rodeo out on the streets in Salt Lake trying to like hand tickets out and get people to come watch them, I was like,
that was a bad approach.
No. because
you can't go into. I mean, you're changing the whole schedules. I mean, you're going off the wall. I mean, that doesn't like.
well,
You
next
got to
time,
go concert route. I mean, you got to go. I mean, you got to bring. There's a lot of things that bring it all together. Timing, year. I mean,
well, the next time there's an
can't just go
insurrection,
randomly.
the average cowboy's gonna be like, I saw what happened last time. Now
Yeah.
you got that to overcome.
yeah.
I mean, you taking steps
I've
back.
heard- yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, a lot of timidness about that, but it's it's a process. I mean, I think we have to be more control of our own, destiny as far as that goes. Because there's so much potential in rodeo. I mean, it's so much potential of what we could do.
I think it's I still think it's the greatest sport on earth.
No doubt.
When the sport is explained in a way that people can understand,
Yeah.
they're instantly sucked in. I mean, you look at like the appetite. There's so much going on in cowboy hats right now in this world. There's obviously an appetite for the culture and for the values and things that we try to represent. I mean, we know it's not what it projects itself to be all the time, but there is an appetite, and like I think there's nothing cooler in this world than a Calgary Stampede bucking horse. I think that is just the coolest thing ever, and I'm not a rough stock guy at all. If people could start to understand what they're seeing as they're seeing it, I mean, sky's the limit, and it's like it has to travel through this little straw. It's like we got an ocean of potential that has to travel through a little straw that sits on a board.
It's I mean, there is so much potential in the sport of rodeo, and the whole Western industry as a whole. I mean, it's crazy how big it is, but we're so stuck in the past on a lot how we do so many things that, I mean, our technology. I mean, there's so many things that we're just stuck in the past that we need to get up to speed to be able to grow, an old mindset and narrow mindset and worried about just trying to nitpick instead of grow together. I mean, there's so many ways that it could be a lot bigger.
I don't think that a structure works when the greatest benefit is concentrated on a few people, because those people are then going to hang on to it tighter.
Yeah. They're so scared to lose what they got. If
Meanwhile, they would be making triple, quadruple
exactly.
what they're
if
making
they would
now.
look at the big picture, they could make 10 times as much money.
It's like they're eating. It's like they have a bag of seeds, and instead of planting a harvest, they're eating all the seeds.
But is what really eats me up. Like, I mean, I think the potential is tremendous of what it could be. But is what really bothers me is the flip side. If we don't kick it in that butt and stick it in overdrive, I mean, look at what's going on. It's not sustainable. The economy and I just don't. We got to be careful. I mean, I think we got to.
Fork.
It needs to go. I mean, it needs to go. It needs to grow and get bigger because, I mean, I just don't think it's sustainable at where without, growing tremendously.
I want to segue off the edge of that, because two things. I've said you see how it is and how it could be, and you're saying we're stuck in the past and the use of technology and all this stuff. Of course, I'm going to ask you about Equine Exchange. First of all, I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on it. But if the average person walks up and goes, "What is that?" What's the elevator speech, the 30-second speech of what it is?
Place to buy and sell horses, really. I mean, to help market and sell and find the horse, whatever horse fits you, really.
Where did that start?
So it started, a friend of mine had the idea to be able to see what horses were for sale at the ropens. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, I've got this idea." It's been about 3 years ago now. And he said, I'd like to be able to know what horses are for sale at the ropens. I think it could turn into something. I think, an app would be a good idea. Just, what do you think? I said, well, I like the idea. I said, I think there's a lot more you could do with that, And anyway, we brainstormed for a while. I was selling quite a few horses and had some in training and stuff like that, and bringing up through my program. And I enjoy that side of it. I enjoy the rodeo side and then the horse side. Like I said, my granddad I was around a bunch of them growing up. I didn't appreciate it as much then because I was wanting to compete so bad. I was wanting to do whatever it took to win. So I'm like, dude, we got to get off the green ones and go win something. But now, that's fun for me to have young ones coming up. Which one's going to make? Now they have the futurities. A place to go take them, win on them. That you're not just keeping them till they're 7.
We'll start returning some of your investment before they're ready.
Exactly.
Before I say ready,
before they go on
rodeo.
rodeo. And then it gives you another avenue. Even if they don't make it, they might fit these guys in Wickenburg. And stuff like that. So there's just a lot of avenues for them to go. So it's great for me. I love doing it, and it's fun. But I was really growing that side of things. So I was like, well, this would be a good fit for me with my horse side of things and the app. And so that just kind of how it all dominoed together. And
did you guys have a tech guy already in place, or did you have to go find one?
Yeah, we actually had, it was a friend of his worked at a big tech company. There's a lot of developers there. And we just went through that company in Lubbock and they did a great job. I mean, they were good to work with.
When you think big tech company, you don't think the cotton fields of Lubbock. That's cool that there's
They've got, there's quite a few of them there, which they, you get some of them that come out, fresh out of college, and it takes you a while to translate with horse stuff
for sure.
back. And then
we would with the roping calendar. My wife, that's her deal. She's driving it, and she dealt for a year with a guy named Abhishek, trying to explain the ins and outs of the team rope, and like it's two different languages, all in English, but that's two different languages when you start talking tech and practical application.
No, it's pretty cool how it all really came together. I learned a lot through the whole process, and just
is that fun? Is that fun to like put your brain power towards something that's not?
It was fun for me, and to work with the two partners of mine on the. I mean, like they're awesome to work with them. They're good guys. I got to be real good friends with both of them through the process too. So like, it was fun for me to do something different, have kind of something to work with outside of rodeoing and doing that all the time. So it's been a fun project for me, really.
So when people go look at it, hey, let me say this. Did you see the horse that Shane Phillip was riding today?
Yeah.
There's something about a horse like that when a horse like that walks in the box, it's like they've got a presence. Not every horse has it. I don't even know how to describe it in a way that doesn't sound stupid, but every now and then a horse walks in, like we've got cow dogs, and like they say that dogs have presence. There's cows that just know which dog will actually bite and which ones won't. They just have a sense about it, right? And there are horses that walk in and it's like, what is that? Like it's just a big, cool something. I don't know how to describe it.
Sure.
Traditionally, I think the horse buying experience was, when I go look at this horse, does he give me that sort of a feeling? Is it something I can afford? Is it something that I want?
Sure.
To put that onto a technological platform, how do you try to capture that in a way that allows people to feel as close to that feeling as they can feel without actually being there in person?
So it's almost set up like a Carfax. Like you can go on and type in like your search and like exactly what you're looking for. If you want to go, price range, 10 to 20,000, only sorrel, only, you could get it as defined as you want. Yeah. And then you could save that. So like if anything gets added to that, that meets that, you'll get notified. So like there's a lot of things like that to, kind of keep it. We've started doing auctions as well. We've had 3 auctions now, and that's, the way we do them is like it's a 7-day auction. You'll have 7 days in the middle, like if you want to go try them or whatever, find out about them, gives you time to go look at them. People love auctions. That's just, over the past few years, that's just kind of been a big thing. So we started doing that.
If there's something I learned growing up in North Texas, it is that people love auctions.
They love it.
If they love buying a halter, buying it out of a bucket with a brush, they love it even more.
Yeah.
If they feel like they're competing to get it, it's not only that I buy something, I won something because I was the highest bidder.
Yeah. So, that's something, but we tried to set it up to where, we had people at first like, oh man, you need to really filter the horse, make sure you got the best horse. I'm like, I get it. But you also got to have a place for the backyard jackpot horse. You need to be able to find whatever. And if you want to go specifically search for the upper end, you can go find that. If you want to go look for everything, you can find that. So it's set up to where try to make it, simplify finding and selling horses, really. It's what it's set up for.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's next with that? Is it just continue to do that better, or is it there's more coming that's going to be a part of that?
Yeah. We want to grow with it. We have all kinds of ideas and things we want to do and stuff we're working on. But, ideally we want to, domino into actual horse sales and like help provide that as a service for them and provide, online bidding and stuff. And we're actually doing something with, Billy Myers on his auction and, futurity next fall. So, that's you'll start seeing more of that next year for sure. That's kind of our next phase.
Where are you at on the horse auction thing?
As far as
what's your opinion on? Because it seems like to me, I just read today that Clay Smith is putting Marty in Rancho Rio.
Yeah,
that to me is like a foreign language, and I've got one in the Rancho Rio sale this year.
Yeah.
What happened? What in the heck? Well, out of nowhere, all of a sudden now auctions are like the thing.
So,
and I'm not listening, and I'm not against them. I got 3 horses in sales this winter, and they're all horses that I bought because I liked them. I think
auctions. I think that's a really good place if a guy can do the right thing to grow on. I guess I've just seen some of both sides of the auction. And if you can really stand behind one and really grow a good name and have trust on the other side of that, of what people's buying, then I think, the amount, you could have all kinds of success from the auction side. It's just, in the horse business, we all know, it's not always easy to do the right thing, but it definitely pays off at the end of the day. I mean, to provide the best quality you can and at least be honest. I mean, it as bad as it hurts sometimes, but I mean, you got to be as honest as you can. I mean,
well, I don't think a guy very often makes all of his money on selling one. You generally make your money on this repetitive clientele coming back. Same with riding horses for people. Like if they come pick their horse up and they're like, hey, they're not coming back, right? And so in the long run, your very best investment is to take the hits when you have to try the very best you can to represent it as well as you can. So to your point, you just hope that's what. Yeah. I tell you what I'm doing this year. I bought a horse, the black horse I had forever. I got him back. And if anybody wants to come try him, great. Come try him, $500. Yeah. And if you buy him, I'll give you your $500 back. But I do not want people coming and kicking tires. But I'm so confident that if people could come get on him, they're going to be more likely to buy him. Yeah. I hope there's things, and this is not, here's the reason I'm asking. I'm going somewhere with this. I think that the horse buying, selling thing is so up in the air right now.
It's way up in the air.
Compared to what it was.
It's an unknown, like it's still unknown territory.
I think people are still kind of developing a culture. I think that's the right word. A culture of like, okay, this actually does work. Okay, this doesn't work. You know,
there's going to have to, in my mind, there's so many opinions and there's so many people and there's so many walks of life, you know, of the type of people around Arizona, around the jackpot. It's not understood yet, the horse trying process.
You know what I think it might be? Here's what I think it might be. And you tell me if you agree. I think there are a lot of people that don't, it's my favorite quote. Nietzsche said that for people who can't hear the music, the dancers look insane, right? And I think there's a lot of people that want a team rope and they want to be successful and they're going to invest a lot of money, but they don't want to be the guy that gets laughed at for buying the wrong one. And they don't necessarily know exactly what they're looking for. They just want magic and they don't know what magic looks like. And they're like, I don't want to make this giant financial commitment that I can only make once. Yeah. And buy one and be the only one that didn't get the joke, right? Like everybody knows why we didn't buy that one.
Or even if they had plenty of money to buy, they still don't want to be the guy that in their circle that gets laughed at. One of their buddies, it knows way more about it than them, so they don't want to get made fun of. They don't want to feel like an outsider, and so they're so timid. So sometimes you get all kinds of horse triers, right? I mean, you get the guy. I mean, you get the extra picky, and then you get the fly in, run 3 steers, buy your horse. So you get everything. And I think in a perfect world, I mean, for me, I think down the road, it will translate into people won't try them. I think they'll, if you could build the perfect video of a number 3 riding it, a number 6 riding it, a number 9, have 4 different people riding it. However, you are in charge of making that horse represented perfect in a way that they're understanding of what they're buying, and then it goes on.
I would buy a horse. I've bought a lot of horses that I've never even seen. If I can see pictures and videos, I can tell you about what they are. You too. I mean, you can watch a horse you've never been on and get an idea of how they're going to feel. And I've gone through a lot of horses in my life. I don't think everybody's necessarily got that ability. And I'm not that I'm anything special. That's certainly not what I'm saying, but I've done it enough that I can kind of watch a video and get an idea. Yeah. That predictability, I think the word is predictability, to try to build predictability for the buyer that says, we will help you. We kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. I really think that you're focusing on this, but maybe this would help. And then if that works and you help that person and that person buys a horse off Equine Exchange and goes, it worked. Hey, guess what? You got them. They're coming back. Yeah. The burden there, this is what I'm saying, it's up in the air. I don't think that anybody has settled on a real foolproof way of predictability, guessing if this horse is going to be something that fits me for a long time. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're also guessing how they're going to change after you buy them.
Yeah. No, they're all so different. But I mean, you get, like I say, you get somebody that wants to try the horse 3, 4, 5 times. They will take it to a jackpot. They do the whole deal, and then you get some that roll through there and run 3. So it's like a lot of times if somebody doesn't necessarily know what they want, and that's why I think we're 10 years off from we're like what we're talking about, but there will be a way that ends up being found to make it easy to do it, and it'll become the new norm. But it's just so up in the air right now of how it's done.
You got one at Rancho this year?
I don't. I missed the boat on. I really didn't have. I had one horse that was a futurity this year. I thought about putting in there, and then I was like, I kind of might use him next year some. So I ended up not putting one in there. Just because I didn't really have one prepared to put in there that far ahead of time. Yeah. But
this is my first year. I've never sold a horse in an auction my whole life. I'm 40 years old and I've never done it. And I went from 0 to 3. I got one in all 3 sales out here this year. So I guess maybe we can do this again, like in the spring, and I can tell you. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You know, to me, it seems like the ones that were really out here that people could see, like you said, and I think it's a great idea on trying the horse, because you don't want tired. You don't want something. I mean, you got a lot invested in that horse of time and money and effort and making him work the way he does. And, you know, you don't want somebody getting on him and running 7 steers.
And listen, I'm dead serious. You pay the $500 and you get on him and you feel what I know that horse is. He's been around for years. I know what he is. If you feel that, I feel like it increases your chances of buying him.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm not. I'm fortunate that he's not one I'm having to. Not that I would, but he's not one a guy has to kind of like disguise or make look a certain.
Yeah.
He is what I said he is.
Sure.
And if you want to see it, $500. Because the guy that goes, well, I don't. You know, I got. No offense to anybody who's got $10 in their bank account, but if they have no intentions of actually making an effort to buy him, why am I going to put him on there just to go run some on him?
Sure.
So, I mean, I would say if I was looking for a horse at Rancho and somebody goes, hey, for $500, you can come try him, I am way more interested in that than somebody's like, no, or, you know, sure, get on him. Who cares what happens to him?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. If I'm going to do it, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody else doing it that way. I'm going to do it this year. And I guess maybe we'll see how it goes, but maybe that becomes the new standard. I don't think someone has any business trying a horse that they can't afford.
Yeah,
that just infuriates me. That makes me so mad.
Way. Yeah, just it's a waste of time.
Basically, can I come ride your horse and rope your steers and waste your time with no intentions of ever making any sort of effort? So, I mean, this sounds like I'm jaded. I really don't mean to be that way, but.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, we got a lot invested in these horses. It's at the end of the day, and it's time. I mean, you don't no sense in wasting anybody's time.
Hey, and this horse, when you nod, is going to give you everything, whether you have the money to buy him or not. He doesn't know you're not serious. He's not going to hold back and try to like take care of himself. He's going to give you everything he's got. And if you're going to ask him for that, have it be for a reason. You know, have it be a purpose there. So, Equine Exchange. I had one more thing. I'm trying to think of what it was. You're not supposed to ever say that on a podcast. You're not supposed to say I forgot what I was going to say. I'm breaking all the rules. Rancho tomorrow. Off to Vegas tomorrow after that.
Yes.
Breaking in steers Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday, then a few things maybe on Wednesday, and then rodeo Thursday.
Feel like NFR prep this year compared to years in the past? You feel like you like it?
Yeah, it's been good. The last week that we really had good practice, it went really well. I mean, we only ran 15, 20 steers a day on our better horses, and it was good. Kind of had a good rundown. So, my goal this year is to be fully focused round one, and it's been hard to do in the past. It takes me a few rounds sometimes to get the right angles but I'm going to try to get off to a good start. And
do you feel like a fully bearded up Cody Snow is a more competitive Cody Snow? I mean, where do you rank him? Like if unbearded and bearded Cody Snow match?
I guess he's got a lot of confidence, right? That's the only thing he could say.
Just got all that testosterone.
Yeah, when I look
display,
over there, all I
ready.
can see is just he must be confident right now. You know what I mean? So, I like that, I guess.
He's like the pirate Redbeard, ready to go to war.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for coming by, man. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me.